Welcome to the FCICA Product Promotional Webinar Series. We are pleased to have Brent Fike from FlashCove with us today. Welcome, Brent.
Welcome. Thank you.
You're welcome. I'll turn the session right over to you.
All right. Well, thanks again, everyone, for joining in, and those that may listen later or view this later. As always, as Kelly's already mentioned, we will take questions at the end, and I look forward to answering those, but try to answer and explain this product and this system to you as we go. And again, I do appreciate your interest and for being here. FlashCove is actually a process that has been, there we go. It originated up in Canada in the early 1990s. For those of you that are actually installers or doing these processes on a daily basis, the frustration of actually getting a successful self-coved installation on a job site is kind of what triggered the formation of this product. It was actually created by a flooring contractor who just simply was frustrated with the performance of site-formed bases. So those of you who have done this realize it's an art, it's a craft. Those of you who are involved in it now also realize that the technicians that were doing these types of processes years ago, they just simply don't exist in all cases anymore in all scenarios. And, you know, with the construction sites and the things that we have going on today, this product is becoming more and more of a solution to those areas and to those needs as the job sites progress and continue with the types of products that are out there. It is a patented process, so it is something that the person who came up with it took the time to get it patented because of what they felt they had created and what they felt that this product or this system could actually do for the industry and the flooring industry that we're in today. So what you're looking at here is a photo of a finished job. This is, of course, a sheet vinyl with a wood grain pattern on it. You can see the actual coving as it goes up the wall. This looks like it's roughly an 8-inch coving, and you can see a very tight radius at the bottom. You can see it cleaned off very nicely at the top. But you can also notice that with traditional coving, sometimes this pattern results in a very difficult or tricky installation with it being a wood grain. So you can actually see the finished result by using the actual FlashCove process. Back in 2016, early part of 2016, FlashCove was purchased and became part of the Ropey Holding Company family. So for those of you out there who are familiar with Ropey, Ropey is also a member of the Ropey Holding Company family. It's based in founded in Fostoria, Ohio, in the northwest corner of the great state of Ohio. So this company, or this family of companies, also includes FlexCove, 6 Degrees, Seneca Millwork, and a few other companies that are out there. So some of those brands may be recognizable. They are all operated independently, as well as FlashCove is independent of those companies as well. We're just all under the same ownership group. So for those of you who know me, you may know me from Ropey, or you may know me from FlexCove, and so I am the Brent Fike that you know, unfortunately. But if I don't know you, I'm looking forward to getting to meet you maybe one day. So let's progress with this. We do have manufacturing of FlashCove in 2 locations. We are continuing to manufacture in Markham, Ontario, which is where the product was originated, which is in the Toronto area. And we also have manufacturing now in Fostoria, Ohio. This product is known in some sections of the U.S., and it has been used before. It's widely used within those contractors who believe in the system, who have seen it work, seen it perform as a problem solver for them. So we do have some exposure in the U.S., and it is growing as it has become part of the Ropey Holding Company family. That exposure is of course being slowly spread across the country. How many of you have seen this or faced this issue? Now, this is not a very good photo, but it is representative of the problems that we see with a site coved or self-coved installation. Now, this is on a concrete block wall, of course, and probably there's no support behind this, but you can actually see the corners busted open. You can see the actual cove portion is broken, as well as here. This is what we traditionally see as one of the larger issues with a self-coved or a site-formed install. With these being sheetrock walls, or whether they have a vinyl coating on them or some type of other wall finish, a lot of times the issues that we face is the support doesn't go all the way to the floor, so there's not a great area there to support it, and so something gets bumped into this, or something over time, just the material itself dries out, cracks, does whatever, and creates this type of an installation scenario. And in an area where you are coving a product, those of you who understand it and realize what this is, the coving of the product is done for infectious control, or for easy cleaning of the product to maintain a sterile environment. And so once this happens, it has to be corrected fairly quickly. So let's get into what actually, what is FlashCove and how the product actually works. Is a prefabricated coving to aid in infectious control. By prefabricated means it comes to you ready to install in a situation to create this sterile environment. If it can be coved on site, it can be FlashCove. And what we simply mean by this is any product that you can simply install in a coved installation on a job site, we can take that product for you and make FlashCove out of it and return it back to you. So it's any type of resilient sheet, any color of resilient sheet, and any pattern of resilient sheet. So, and the reason why this is important is it will come to, as we go through this presentation, there are multiple reasons and design opportunities that are available with this type of product as well. But what we're trying to get across is it doesn't really matter the product. As long as it can be coved on site, then we can make FlashCove out of the product for you. And this is, I love being able to see facial expressions and faces as I'm presenting, so work with me as I go through this a little bit and we see this. But it gives you the freedom of design. Again, the photo that we showed earlier of a wood grain sheet vinyl. You can imagine FlashCoving that the ends of the rooms where it would turn up the wall normally, you have to cut those back, and you have to create an extra seam to make it look right. So then you're doing something different than you're doing on the walls or on the side walls. So it creates you some consistency. Again, wood grains, they give you that natural appearance at time of installation. And then even solid color accents. A lot of times in the design element, people want that little bit of a difference. And so with FlashCove, we're able to do that. That also gives you the ability to, as I said earlier, a solution provider with this product, being able to go back into an existing installation that has become damaged. Now, instead of replacing the entire room or coming back and cutting out and replacing sections, you can actually replace the section with the FlashCove product. And we're going to talk a little bit more in a minute about what it actually gives you and what it does for it. But, you can come back in and replace those damaged areas with either the same product or a different product, just with a different application that is a solution to the problem to prevent it from happening again. So what are the installation benefits of using FlashCove? The prefabrication provides confidence in installation, and it allows for faster installs. By faster installs, you're taking someone who is not necessarily your really skilled laborer, who may be the same guy for multiple aspects of the job. While he's doing something else, you can have someone going ahead and be placing the FlashCove. Once you get this product in and fitting is the only thing that really takes place. There's no more installation of a cove stick and a cove cap the coving of the sheet goods. It all becomes one piece, and then your cove cap is added at the end, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a few moments. Consistent installs at the radius of the floor and the wall. For me, when I look at jobs and when we review installations around the country, one of the things that we hear from people, be it whether it's a designer, an end user, or just anyone associated with a job, is consistency. If you have a radius of one angle at one wall and another wall somewhere else, it's a little bit different. Or if, let's say you're dealing with a sheetrock wall, and, we all know this never happens. The sheetrock always goes down to within a half inch of the concrete or the subfloor. There's never an inch or 2 or 3 inch gap. That creates a situation where the cove stick doesn't have anything to set up against. So you have inconsistency in that radius. And, we all know that never happens. It's always perfect. So this provides for that consistent radius, and I'll talk about that a little bit more in just a few minutes. And this photo kind of indicates what I'm talking about. You can see at the bottom the green piece that has a very consistent radius, so it has a clean look. It has a very sharp or consistent look to it. Also, you notice here another aspect of it is how far the green piece actually comes out onto the floor. That is part of the actual FlashCove piece, and so that gives you some installation advantages that we will talk about coming up as well. So a cleaner finishing at standard metal door frames and corners. This sometimes is a issue within a facility, just simply due to the number of door frames that are involved. When you have a traditional cove installation, when you have a cove stick there and you have the material sits out on it, usually that radius protrudes or sits out in front of that door frame, and so therefore you have to seal that area. Usually it's either, depending on how you're sealing the product or seaming the product, you have to either fill that with caulk or with a heat weld or with cold weld or some type of method to prevent liquids and other things from getting under there. With the FlashCove, as you can see in this photo, you can see the radius sits really nice behind that door frame. So there's not as much there. You can see just a slight area there at the door frame where the seam is, but what you end up with is a very consistent install there that tucks in nicely. So it ends up being a little more aesthetically pleasing once the job is complete. So I'll let you see that for just a moment, and then we'll click through. Don't forget, if you have questions, to be submitting those so that we can answer those in the end. So how is the product manufactured? This is probably one of the 2 questions we get asked most about this product is, okay, what are you actually doing for me with this product? So what we do, this is the actual system of FlashCove. So if you look at the photo, the cove cap on the top is actually our stainless steel, what we call a chiclet cap. It is chiclet because we call it chiclet because if you look at the actual cap, you can see the squares in the back of it that are open. Those squares resemble the chiclet gum, so that's kind of how it got its nickname, and what it's called is a chiclet cap. This is a stainless cap. We have a lot of requests for this cap secondary to the other products just because of the cleanliness and the sterileness of the environment. And then you can see our aluminum backing that forms the actual radius at the cove, and then you can actually see in this case what's actually a piece of linoleum that is actually in the photo. So we receive the material in to make FlashCove. So the process goes like this. Let's say you want to make 100 linear feet of FlashCove. You'll contact us. We'll tell you exactly you'll tell us the material that you want to make it out of, the sizes that you want it to be, and then we'll tell you how much material you will need to send us. We don't provide any material or flooring material for the actual product. That has to be provided by you for the job. So whatever material you're using, you would buy just simply enough extra material to make the coving. You would ship that to us, and then we would take it from there. We'll cut the material to length, which is actually a little bit of an overage to allow for squaring on site. Our pieces are standard 10-foot lengths. We'll talk about that again in a minute, but we actually will cut them just a little bit over 10 foot because you do want the seams to be square. As you all know, the tighter, the better the seams are, the easier it is to seal them up, and the cleaner the install becomes. So we'll cut the material to width according to the ordered dimensions, and we'll talk about that in a few moments as well, what those dimensions can be. But this is your rise up the wall and your run across the floor that you desire. As you saw in the photo with the green, we do have multiple dimensions that are available, and we'll talk about some advantages and some disadvantages of that. We'll permanently adhere to the puncture-proof aluminum reinforcement. Now, the puncture-proof aluminum reinforcement for you is a signal that is going to be a very key characteristic of this product. Now you have a system that prevents that breaking, or prevents it being punctured, or prevents someone from rolling a piece of equipment onto that cove and creating a tear or a hole or a break that you have to return to the job site and fix. One of the questions we get asked, or people assume that we send the aluminum and you use that as a cove stick. And we're actually preparing all of this for you and sending it back to you ready to install. And then we package it for shipment. Depending on where you want it shipped, depending on how many pieces it's going, this goes anywhere from a very sturdy cardboard box for 4 to 5 pieces to a large wooden crate up to 2,000 linear feet. The wooden crate, there's a slight charge for that crate, but if you get into this product and realize that it's something that you like to do or want to use, that wooden crate is reusable. You simply, if you have another order, we take that back, we fill your next order into that wooden crate, it can become yours and it's reusable. So we do have a couple of contractors around the country who are using this product that have multiple crates, and we ship and reship their material to them all the time. Talk a little bit about the flexibility in design, and as we mentioned earlier about how you can utilize this within the design or in the replacement. Here's a photo, the exact same photo you saw earlier of the components and pieces. So number one, we're showing the cap. You can use any cap for the installation. So it's not required for you to use ours. If you have a favorite cap that you like to use, if you have a favorite manufacturer that you like to use, or you want to use the cap of the flooring manufacturer, that's perfectly fine. You can use vinyl, you can use rubber, you can use metal, or you can use our stainless steel chiclet cap as shown. A couple of the key benefits of our cap is you can see there's a small hole and there's a square. The squares act when you're actually installing the product. Well, our recommendation as you go through and watch our video, our recommendation is as you're putting the pieces in and you've got the adhesive on the back, that you actually slide the cap over it as you're putting the material in. So the squares help to actually grab hold of the chiclet cap and hold it in place. So that's for the adhesion against the wall. The small holes can actually be used with mechanical fasteners. And so one of the benefits of this product, we get a lot of requests, or we get asked the question several times a year, I've got to do an application or an installation in, let's say, a mental health facility, for example, where we have to have some type of protection of people removing the installation or being able to get in there. Now you can create a mechanically fastened metal cove cap that's harder to remove. I won't say it can't be removed, but it is harder for it to be removed. So it has some strength and some integrity. And I realize there's other metal caps out there that have the same benefit, but this one has the dual benefit and the dual purpose for those types of applications. Number two, again, you can use any resilient sheet product, vinyl, rubber, linoleum, safety floors, any product that can be site cove, we can put onto this puncture-proof aluminum backing and create FlashCove for you. Now here's where it really starts to get interesting. Number three is of the design flexibility is the height for the rise up the wall. We have to do a minimum of 4 inches. Now, I have searched all over and looked. I know the standard for coves usually range anywhere from 4 to 6 inches is kind of what you normally and traditionally see. With this process, we need to do a minimum of 4. We can't do anything shorter than that. But the maximum we can do is 12 inches. So we can go up the wall anywhere from 4 inches to 12 inches based on the needs of the site or just the desires of the end user. You know, a lot of times we'll see applications or we'll get asked about applications, can you do 4 feet? No, we can't, but you can do 12 inches and you can put a 3-foot piece. Now you've got your 4 feet. So, you know, it's kind of just a scenario that's actually going on. Any size in between that we can do. So if you need to get specific and you want it 4 3/4 inches, all you got to do is tell us and we can do that. That's the kind of the flexibility of what you need and what you're doing. Number 4 in this photo is the bonded puncture-proof aluminum reinforcement. Here's the first time you're seeing this or hearing this. This part of the process gives you a lifetime guarantee against punctures and tears in the flooring at the cove. If you call us 10 years later and says, my FlashCove's got a hole in it, as long as that was not an act of God or intentional damage, we'll replace that piece of FlashCove for you, material and aluminum and labor to reinstall it. That's how much we believe in this system. You can see the tagline on the bottom of the slide, turn the weakest part of your floor into the strongest. And that's the benefit of this system. Number 5, here's where you select the width of the floor. Again, we have a minimum 3 inches. That gives you enough room against the wall to actually work and do your seam sealing of the actual product. You know, we would like to say 4 inches is a minimum, but 3 inches is as narrow as we can go. That gives you your design element. But again, a maximum of 12 inches. So what we have come to realize with this product is most of the products out there these days are 6 foot wide. A lot of your 6 foot wide sheet goods, and you're going into an 8 foot corridor. The question is always, where do I put the seams? Well, a lot of your 6 foot wide products have, I don't want to say directional looks, but directional appearances. They need to be running the length of the corridor instead of the width. Well, now you can provide a FlashCove with a 12-inch floor section that actually now puts your seams on both sides, and you have an 8 foot corridor with your cross seams every length of your roll, depending on how far it needs to run. So it gives you a little bit of flexibility in your layouts. It gives you a little bit of flexibility in your design, but it also now decreases your amount of seam sealing that's required for some of your longer corridors and things like that, where they want this type of requirement. Again, any size in between 3 and 12 for the floor. So we have a total of a minimum size of 3 inches on the floor and 4 inches up the wall, or 12 inches on the floor and 12 inches up the wall. So you can imagine now kind of starting to see some material requirements. If you need a 12 on the floor, a 12 up the wall, and you need 100 linear feet, you can now start to calculate the amount, and it's kind of how we calculate the amount of material we will need to do this. So it's kind of hopefully the description is starting to come together of what actually this product is. One of the other benefits, and we talk a lot about infection control and sterile environments and things like that. So how does FlashCove actually help with the maintenance? It provides the confidence for just overall improvement. Again, you've got this confidence that you're not going to have the failure at the cove portion of between the wall and the floor. You've got a product that's going to be integral. It's going to be there. And then you have, the ability to create your inside and outside corners also with that same strength at that radius. You get the better sealing at the door frames. We've already talked about that. So that overall appearance, not only from an aesthetic application, but from, just the confidence in knowing that each one of those little areas where water or liquids can get and mold can begin to grow and develop, you have a better opportunity to seal those off. It also allows for maintenance equipment to get closer to the wall without risk of damaging or puncturing the flooring. A lot of times when we're in these environments and we're looking at maintenance issues or we're looking at cleanliness issues, we will see the hardest part of the flooring for the environmental people are the areas right up next to the wall. Either A, they've had trouble in the past where they've had operators who's actually using a swing machine or a ride-on scrubber who's gotten too close to the cove or bumped into it and created a hole, or they're afraid to get there, or they've done it before and now they don't get that close, or B, they just don't think they can get that close to it. With the actual radius that the FlashCove creates, you can actually get your equipment closer to the wall because it doesn't protrude as much, and you'd be surprised at that little bit of space that's there, how much difference it makes in actually being able to maintain the flooring. Just again, little things that a lot of times just go unthought of. Are there similar products on the market to FlashCove? And here's a little bit of a situation where, yes, I'm going to talk a little bit about those competitive products that are out there. A lot of these products have come along as a result of FlashCove or as a result of other people trying to create a solution for this issue. This is a problem. It is something that gets discussed. Unfortunately, it has become a problem that most people just realize it's going to happen. So it kind of just becomes part of the process of, on a regular basis, going in and making these repairs. So there are other coving systems available. There are wall-based systems. There are wall-based systems out there that come in pre-described lengths with a section on the floor and a certain height up the wall that get heat welded together. There are fold-in cove systems. There are a couple of manufacturers that make a product that comes out flat on a roll that you actually fold into place and install them. Again, when you're folding something, and I'm not knocking the competitors, I'm talking about the system. When you make that fold, then now you've weakened the product. So you've created a crease or you've created an area that is a weaker point. That weak point, again, is the weakest part of your floor system, and your system is designed to help with infectious control. Preformed and weld, again, I talked about, products. There are products out there with preformed corners and weldable systems. Guys, we have these within our sister companies, okay? We talk about these on a regular basis. We handle these from a technical standpoint on a regular basis. So we know those systems are there. There are hot melt adhesive systems. We are aware of companies who are trying to pre-fold material, apply a hot melt adhesive to create a cove stick or a fillet strip on the back of the product for the actual installation. At that point, what you're getting is still, you're not getting the type of support that you need or sometimes the consistency of the FlashCove product. FlashCove is the only coving system available with a lifetime puncture warranty. Again, that lifetime puncture warranty is if it tears, breaks, gets a hole in it that's not an act of God or malicious intent, then we will replace it for you. And I say act of God and malicious intent. Everybody understands that. Everybody understands a warranty, and we start to look at it. But if this happens just with regular use, guys, we're going to replace it. We're going to fix it. That's how we believe in the system. Since this system has been in place, there have only been 3 pieces that have been replaced. And we're talking millions of linear feet that have been sold. And those 3 pieces were something that happened. They actually happened in the same facility, and we actually went back and determined what the issue was and was able to fix that. And so that hasn't happened since then. So you can understand where we're coming from a standpoint of confidence in the product and us standing behind the product and just the overall feel of this product as a solution for the flooring industry. So how is it installed? This is where we kind of get to getting it into the facility, of course. Economical and faster installations, we talked about that a little earlier. There's no Cove stick, so you're not going around and putting your Cove stick in the beginning. The cap is installed with the FlashCove and not prior to installing sheet goods. So you're not going around and popping a line on the wall and hanging your cap and waiting on your adhesive to dry, or using tape or those kind of things. You're actually just coming along and you're putting your material up and putting the cap on top of it. Installs with traditional adhesives. By traditional adhesives, what we mean is it's going to install with whatever adhesive the flooring is going in with, whatever adhesive your installer or the installation crew traditionally uses for flash coving. Some guys like tapes. Some guys like a really tacky pressure-sensitive adhesive. Some guys like to use the flooring adhesive. Whatever product you're using for the flooring, it's going to work with this system because, again, you are just installing the flooring just in a FlashCove prefabricated base system. Also, traditionally, what has been recommended with this product is simply to use a wall-based adhesive. A high-quality wall-based adhesive will work on this because it's not trying to, the adhesive doesn't have to hold the material dimensionally stable. It's just got to hold the material in place. So it needs to be an adhesive that's going to actually dry, behind the product. So you have to look at your application of what you're installing over. You don't want to go over a non-porous wall covering and a non-porous flooring product with a wall-based adhesive or an adhesive that is designed to be an acrylic for porous surfaces. You want to make sure you're using something that's adequate for the job, of course. Ridges, undulations in the subfloor. One of the things that we have run across is we all know subfloors aren't perfectly flat. It doesn't matter whether you put a self-leveler down or whatever, unless you go through and get a perfectly flat substrate, you're going to have applications when you're doing coving that eventually you're going to run into a low spot or a high spot that's going to have a weak pocket. The metal on the back of this, the aluminum that's there, actually will bridge those gaps, and so it will provide that support. Now, if you're underneath that metal or out in front of that metal, you're going to have some adhesive that's probably going to help fill some of that void. But what's going to happen is that your stress is not going to be in your cove, so it's going to be a straighter, flatter cove, and so that helps with the actual performance of the product. Again, straighter lines and creates excellent finished installations. You saw the photo earlier. You saw the consistency in the radiuses. You saw how that kind of goes. So now let's talk about actually how you install it. You want to measure the angle of the corners, of course. Not all corners are perfectly 90 degrees, and we realize that. So we just want to use a tool for actually finding the angle. Here is an example of a roughly 135-degree angle. So you would actually find the angle. You would actually set that angle on a compound miter saw, and this is showing that here. Yes, we do recommend that it be cut with a miter saw. This is the portion of the installation that actually is a little bit different than what you're traditionally seeing as a guy on site forming these corners and that kind of thing. But what this does is it actually gives you the cleanest cut. Again, the cleanest cut provides you the best seam. The better your seams are at the time of installation of the flooring product, the better your seams are going to be once you go to seal those off at the end with whatever method you're using. Once it's cut, or once you get your angles, of course you will determine the length, cut the material with a general purpose blade, fit and install with adhesive for the traditional site coved installs. So you're actually going to come back, fit, hand fit it in, make sure everything's tight, make sure everything works right, and then simply apply your adhesive and put everything in. We get asked the question, do you have to install the base first? Can you install the flooring and then come back and set the base on top of the flooring? Either way you want to go with this product is perfectly acceptable. You're just then end up underscribing one product to the other, whichever way you install it. So for us, we feel it's better sometimes to go ahead and get all of the coving up, the FlashCove installed, and then cut your flooring into it and do your flooring install. But it works either direction. It's not going to void a warranty, or we're not going to mandate that you do it one way or the other. And then once everything's installed, you seal the seams per the manufacturer's specifications. So depending on the product you're using, whatever they recommend, whether it's heat welding, cold welding, or seam sealing, remember, you're just sealing the same product that you are on the floor. So with that, going back to talking about the other systems that are out there, you're not now changing your heat welding temperatures from the flooring to the coving system. You're heat welding the same material. So your traditional installation, your guy who's used to that installation, you're not throwing him that much of a curve. The curve comes from cutting and fitting the materials. But then again, the time that's saved, we feel the time that's saved in that makes this a system that at least should be explored moving forward. For large or frequent installations, and by frequent installations, what we mean is if you're going to be doing a lot of installs of this material, or you're going to be doing a large install of a certain size, we definitely recommend building a jig to support the material during cutting, because what this does is just gives you, accurate and faster cuts. And as always, I would be remiss to not mention the safety. I always use proper PPE when cutting material, because you are cutting an aluminum. Even though it's a thin aluminum, it is metal. And you're on a job site, so you're already following the PPE requirements for the job site anyway. Just wanted to throw that in to make sure. And so by a jig, what we're simply talking about is something like this. It is just a support for the material based on the size that you're cutting. If you're doing a 3 on the floor and a 4-inch up the wall, you're not going to need this support. But if you have it, it's going to create faster and cleaner cuts. If you're doing a 12-inch on the floor and a 12-inch up the wall, you can already start to visualize the type of saw, the type of jig, the type of system that you're going to need to cut it. Those are your non-standard sizes, okay? Typically what we do is a 3 on the floor, 4 up the wall, or a 4 on the floor and a 6 up the wall. That's our most requested sizes, and that's what we do day in and day out. But we have the capabilities to do the others and see the benefits of those installations. With that being said, I'm a little bit ahead of schedule, but I'm kind of hoping that there's a lot of questions. Again, you can see a photo here of the actual install. You can see the wood grain, how it looks as a finished install. Here you can see our contact information, flashcove.com, our 800 number, 800-334-5147. That's to our customer service department. And of course, they're available to answer any questions. My contact information, I believe I will get a list of everyone who has registered for this webinar, and I will contact you or send you an email with my contact information, and just thanking you for your interest, and thanking you for letting you know that if you have any questions, who you can contact and that you can contact us. And I promise to not bombard you with thousands of pieces of spam mail into your email. So with this, I will turn it back over to Ms. Kelly, and hopefully we have some questions. If not, then we we have a few that maybe we didn't cover that we can review. So, Kelly, I'll turn it back over to you.
Okay, thank you, Brent. And as we're going over questions, you are invited to submit questions as we're talking about them, so please go ahead and do that. As Brent said, he will be able to contact you afterwards, and you'll be able to contact him, so please do that. We have a few questions, Brent, and I'm not sure exactly if you've covered this to the extent that they wanted, so I'm going to give you the question, and you let me know whether you've covered this or not. First question, can you just order the chiclet cap if you'd like to do the install old school?
Absolutely. We do sell the chiclet cap individually. That would just be through the same. We have actually seen it show up on specifications without the actual material, but we will sell you the stainless cap. Just contact customer service, and we'll get a quote out to you and the pricing on that, as well as shipping costs to you.
Great, thank you. And then the same question was asked about the aluminum reinforcement.
No, we don't do that. We don't sell that individually because that is actually part of the process, is affixing that to the back of the goods and actually creating that radius. That is not something that we can sell to you individually, because that just, the system itself wouldn't work without the process that we put it through.
Okay, great questions, by the way. Let's see, I have a few more here. Says if you mentioned if the floors are not flat, but what about walls that are not flat? How flexible is the chiclet and Cove aluminum?
Well, the actual the wall itself not being straight, the aluminum or the stainless steel chiclet cap will actually flex to the wall. Now, depending on the severity of the unevenness of the wall, you may have to mechanically fasten it to go back to or stay adhered to the wall. The actual aluminum reinforcement is actually not going to create you an issue. Where your flexibility comes in is with your product above that. So the product above that will contour to the wall surface, but your actual radius of your cove will remain consistent. So if it's really uneven or not flat, then you'll see it above and below, the difference above and below the cove line of the aluminum. Now, and I will add on to that question and take it just a little further. You cannot do this process on a curved wall, if that makes any sense. But there is enough flexibility in the cap that it will contour to slight irregularities. And we all know that walls are not straight, and we all know that whenever they come to a corner, there's a little bit of a turn out. But with those scenarios, usually the differences or the unevenness in the wall is not enough to cause you any installation issues or concerns with the FlashCove or the cap.
All right. Another question. Let me see here. So you've got a lot of good ones here, Brent. Okay, that says the photo suggests the outside corners were wrapped. How are these done?
Those are not actually wrapped. Those are mitered and then finished very carefully. These photos, especially the one that's on the screen now, I promise you is not doctored. It was cut very carefully, and it is actually seam sealed and then heated on the outside to actually give the appearance of it being wrapped. Typically with the installations, the corners will look as good as the installer can make them look. One of the things that I hate from a technical standpoint is a doctored photo being used for like marketing purposes and things like that. And so when we went back and started selecting these photos, there is no way to wrap this material because, again, it is a metal back. So these corners were actually cut to the angle, fitted very tightly in place, and then those seams were sealed to create the look and the appearance of the finished job.
Beautiful. All right, so with that question though, Brent, what do you do about corners that are not 90 degrees, that are rounded cinder block corners?
Well, rounded cinder block corners, where you're going to have your biggest issue is going to be the cap at the top. The actual chiclet cap can be rounded to fit that corner. And then as you're cutting the material itself can be massaged into that corner and seamed on the outside to hold it together. Where you're going to have a void is going to be at the back of the aluminum. And so what we have actually had people do is take a pair of 10 snips and cut the aluminum back right on that outside corner to create a little bit of a void there, but then take the actual material and push it together with an adhesive on that rounded corner, and then actually seal that off to where actually the floor portion meet each other like an angled piece, but then as it comes up the wall, you actually see the radius of the cinder block. And that is an application a lot of times you see in a lot of older buildings. You see it in sometimes some newer buildings too. But each job site is going to require just a little bit of custom fitting at the corners, depending on how they are. As with any install of a cove, what you lose from this process, you gain in other areas. So when you're doing a traditional site cove product, your installer is the technician who is the artist, so to speak. And so his butterfly corners or his seam sealing technique that he's using with the product on that corner is going to be the same way. He's going to have to but he's going to have to learn how to do what he needs to do. But where he's going to gain is it in the actual installation process of the product, or actually in the integrity of the seam. And when he walks away, his job is finished and he's not getting those callbacks. So the tips and the techniques that happen, there's lots of little things like that, as within any product, that just comes with facing those scenarios on the job site. And like I said, we've had this product now for a little over a year. We're still seeing things that we haven't run across, or we're still seeing different scenarios. But what we're trying to do is gather those scenarios and create things along the way to provide those little tips or techniques. But that's kind of what we've seen so far.
Okay. Thank you, Brent. Thank you, John and Amy, both for those great questions that you have sent in. We have a quick question from Pat, and I think I know the answer to this one, but he wants to know if tickets to the national championship game are included with the first order.
Only for Alabama and Oklahoma fans.
Okay, back to our real questions. Thank you, Pat, for that little humor. Okay, Darren wants to know, what's the thickness of the aluminum, and is it visible underneath the flooring material?
The thickness of the aluminum is around 20 to 22 thousandths thick. Okay, it's the grade of aluminum that actually gives us the ability to create the puncture-proof warranty. The answer to the question, is it visible? I'm going to answer that with a statement and say it depends on the adhesive that you're using to install. Majority of the times, if you're using a wet applied adhesive, whether it turns into a wet set or a pressure sensitive or an epoxy, that 20 thousandths is bridged with the adhesive as you're pressing it into the trowel ridges. So the adhesive itself becomes kind of a self-leveler underneath the product. If you're using a tape installation system on the floor and up the wall, then that line is going to be visible over time. But traditionally, when you see the finished install, it always has the possibility to be visible depending on the way it's installed, but primarily most of the time it's not visible. And I hope I didn't confuse by answering the question. It all depends on the way it's installed. If you use a wet set adhesive, then no, you probably will not see the seams or will see the line of the metal. But if you're using a tape, it's possible that you could.
Okay, thank you, Brent. Next question we have. Let's see. Do you have videos on constructing the corners?
There are videos on the FlashCove.com website that talk specifically about installation, and there is a specific video regarding corners that is available. Yes.
All right, great. Another question.
Kelly, if I can, and let me just,
yep.
There are actually 3 videos on the website. There's an installation, an overall installation, a chiclet cap installation, and then a video specifically dealing with cutting large size base. So I just wanted to clarify that for a second.
Okay, thank you. Next question. Assuming that you glue fill in the edge, what about lighting? Does the seam show in bright light? And I think you kind of went over this just a little bit.
You're talking about I'm going to assume we're talking about, let's say, all seams. All seams are going to be visible in the product just as they would with a standard Cove installation. The seaming of the product comes in with the same methods that you would use to seam flooring or traditional site-formed Cove installs. Now, when you're talking about the seam or the edge of the metal, any change in elevation or any kind of a ridge or something that becomes apparent is always going to show depending upon the lighting and the angle that it's being viewed from. So there shouldn't be any. Just because you're doing FlashCove is not going to make a seamless install appear to be seamless. Those of us who do or view what we call a seamless installation or a sealed seam installation know that we will be able to see the seams, depending on the trained eye that's looking at it. But it all depends on the way it all depends on the abilities of the installer.
Okay. Let's see. That person was referring to the height off the floor at the aluminum reinforcement. Do you want to know if there's a line?
Yeah, I mean, that goes back to the question that was asked earlier, depending on the adhesive that's used to install. If there's enough adhesive there to hold the product in place, that adhesive is from what we've seen in history, that adhesive is enough to create that create that pad for that metal to sit into, and it fills that void so the material doesn't conform to that ridge that's created by the metal, so then it's not visible.
Okay, thank you. And if there's additional questions involving that previous question, just let us know. We have a few minutes to do a couple more questions. Another question here, Brent. They said the photo looks like it has a floor seam from the outside corner to the 90-degree turn on the floor and the V-plug above the cove. Is this correct?
The photo, can you repeat that question? The photo?
So the photo looks like it has a floor seam from the outside corner to the 90-degree turn on the floor and a V-plug above the cove. Is that correct?
I don't know which photo they're referring to, unless they're referring to the one that's on the screen now. But so remember, let's talk about the base in the photo that's on the screen now. This is 8 inches up the wall, 4 inches on the floor. So when you cut your outside corner, it is going to create a point or angle out onto the floor. So 4 inches from the wall is 3 to 4 inches from the wall is an actual seam in the flooring. So you can see where the wood grain on the left-hand side of the photo, see where it changes direction. That is an actual seam, but there's no plug. There's no V-plug or anything cut into this one. That seam actually goes all the way up behind that corner guard. So you can imagine taking just a piece of coved material and cutting a 45-degree angle, then it does create a point out on the flooring section. And then the other side would be cut to match that. It would be set in place, and then that outside corner and that seam on the floor would be sealed.
Okay, thank you. Again, if you have additional questions, go ahead and type them in. We do have just a couple more minutes. Brent, is there any additional frequent questions that you get asked about the FlashCove?
We do get asked about shipping the material. Shipping of the material to us is the responsibility of the flooring contractor who's ordering the material. We do get that material shipped from the contractor. We get it shipped from the actual manufacturer, shipped direct to us. Distributors have shipped direct to us with the product for the contractor. Again, what you're looking at is just the material that you're installing for the job. That's what we want to make sure that we're using so that you don't have any color or dye lot issues. We do have shipping services available as a sister company. I mean, we can coordinate that for you as well. We do have that ability. One of the other questions we get asked a lot is, how long does it take? I'm not blaming this on flooring contractors. I'm blaming it on the fast track construction schedule. Everybody waits till the last minute. Usually within 3 to 5 days of us receiving the material, we are shipping out the completed order. Depends on the size of the order, and I don't hold me to that, Pat, for you ordering 100,000 linear feet and expect to get it in 5 days. But that's usually the way that works, is depending on the size of the order. When we get the material in, 3 to 5 days, we're turning around and shipping it back out. We will give you that schedule. We can work with you on your installation schedule. If you're going to be doing a large install and you need part here, here, and here, then we can definitely work with you on that. And you know, we understand the business that is the flooring industry as much as anybody can. And so we realize there's time constraints. We realize there's issues. There's different methods. The only thing that we have to worry about and we have to be concerned with is the shipping back to you. We are shipping a 10-foot crate. So there are limited methods. I know the holiday season, and unfortunately there's a surcharge on 10-foot crates right now with UPS and FedEx because they don't want Amazon using them to ship packages. Now, I know that's kind of crazy, but when you start looking at all the little things that happen, you have to keep into consideration the size of the things that we're dealing with. So you also have to understand how to handle them on the job site. People will ask us, well, how do I get this onto the job site? And, you know, a lot of times it depends on the time of the installation, the abilities of the job site, and what's available there as well. So lots of little questions like that. You know, we've already answered the, do I have to use stainless steel chiclet cap? Again, sizes, minimum size is a 4-inch riser and a 3-inch toe, up to a 12-inch riser, 12-inch toe. Can the base be installed on a curve? Again, no, the aluminum doesn't allow for you to install this on curved walls or to wrap corners. And the other part of it is we actually can do a warranty for you on this. We can actually give you the warranty in writing for your particular job, and simply that's requested on the website, and you know, you can actually print that as you put in the information for the job. That warranty is available direct to you. We will do one final comment. One final important question is we will do training either on the job site or in your offices of this product prior to you getting it on the job. If needed, we will assist because we feel that this product is a solution provider, and we want to make sure that we're with you at every step of the way. And so we have a quality installation person who who has worked with this product extensively and understands the ins and outs, and he is more than happy to do, you know, any. As a matter of fact, he's doing training today in Edmonton, Alberta. So bless his heart, it was I think +2 degrees there when he got there this morning. So we will go to the ends of the earth to help you be successful with this product.
All right, excellent. Thank you, Brent. Okay, we are at the end of our session. We'd like to thank FlashCove for sponsoring today's webinar, and especially thank Brent Fike for presenting it. If you'd like more information about FlashCove, you can visit their website at flashcove.com, and your information is contained within your slides. We'll send you a copy of that presentation along with a link to the recording once it's available. And just a reminder that the recording of this webinar will be housed on the FCICA website, fcica.com, and it will also be on our YouTube channel, where you could access it at any time. For our certified installation managers, again, a reminder, this and all FCICA webinars may be credited towards your continuing education credits for your SIM renewal. Consult your SIM handbook or the SIM page on the FCICA website. And of course, you can always contact me, Kelly at fcica.com. If you're interested in sponsoring a product promotional or educational webinar, you can contact me, again, Kelly at fcica.com. And we want to thank you so much for joining us, and have a great day.